Hey guys, my name's Wolf Girl, aka Brit, and we're back with some more Wizard's Choice. It is currently a little bit after 1 o'clock in the morning here, and I'm still awake, so I thought I would go ahead and play a game that I really enjoy, and hopefully I'll be able to play part 2 if I have to buy it or whatever. I'll try my best to do that. I'm also saving up to go to a Christian concert in May, so hopefully I'll have enough money to do both things. So let's get started. Last time we had to choose whether or not to save the unicorn, so let's just get right into it.
We have some drags on our side, and they are as vulnerable now as we can hope. Perhaps if we strike their line where the unicorn is being carried, we can cut the creature loose before they know what is happening, you say. A bold plan. You best be swift and your blade keen to free the unicorn before they slay us with their death magic, Reginald says. The three of you run into the forest, a good distance from the trail, and make haste trying to pass the priests by traveling parallel to them. This is all the more difficult since you have to leap over fallen logs and batter your way through brush, while the priests have a nice dirt path to walk on. By the time you take up your strategic positions in the forest, you are breathing hard. The plan is for you to attack first with a large gout of flame. Reginald will then leap out with his sword to cover you as you cut the unicorn free. Sibba will remain hidden up in a tree to be your eyes from above and shout things like, "3 from the north," Sibba says from her perch. Soon you hear voices, and then the priests are passing by. You did not quite appreciate how many of them there were the first time. As the bound unicorn draws near, you feel a hard lump in your stomach. There are now priests walking along the sides of the stretcher as though providing protection. Perhaps they heard you crashing through the forest as you worked to get ahead of the column. It is the moment you have been waiting for. You are supposed to signal the attack by starting off with a spell of blazing fire, but you do not move. Reginald looks at you, and you shake your head. His eyes betray something. Disappointment? You burn with shame. I cannot. To attack would be suicide, you tell yourself. When the column passes, Sibba drops to the forest floor. You are a coward, she hisses at you. Being called a coward by this waifish young woman will not be among your fondest memories. Your morale goes down a point. Why is our demure, frightened merchant daughter suddenly wishing to play the role of a bloodthirsty battle tactician? You wonder even as you say. Dear Sibba, we will mete out justice to these villains for the death of your father among countless evil deeds in due time. You are not trained in the art of war as Reginald and I are. Even if we set a successful ambush, their numbers are simply too great for 2 men. There are 3 of us, Sibba says fiercely as she thrusts out her palm. A blade for me. Certainly adventurers have more weapons than them. Reginald shrugs, unbuckles the dagger belt, and hands it to her. Even if they scurry off to fortifications of some kind, we will take them. I have the trust of the captain of the guard of Ring City. He will not suffer evil so close, says Reginald. The 3 of you set off after the priests, while keeping a good distance away, out of sight most of the time. Luckily, their party is so noisy that tracking them is trivial. After a few hours, your quarry leaves the trail and hikes over a field. You now have to follow a bit closer in order to not lose them. Soon, they stop on a hill with a large slab of granite at the top. They set the unicorn down on this slab and surround it. They begin chanting. The chant is in Infernal, but you can only make out a few words from here. They are chanting a prayer, you think. Something about forgiveness. I am no Nerulean priest, but I do not think this bodes well for the unicorn, says Reginald. They mean to sacrifice him, Sibba says. The unicorn is a him? Reginald asks. Yes, I observed his, when they carried him by our hiding spot, Sibba responds. Irrelevant, you say in exasperation. Our enemies stand in the open and on high ground. We cannot approach unnoticed. Allow me to lure them to you to the forest edge. I shall play the part of the frightened lost girl. They will be overjoyed to recapture what they lost. You can then attack from your hiding places, says Sibba. No, my lady, they may harm you, says Reginald. I will disembowel them, she says, brandishing the dagger Reginald lent her. I understand your anger for what they did to your father, but do not die a fool, says Reginald. A fool, am I? Sibba asks, her face in such a visage of malice that you and Reginald both take a step back. Reginald stutters. Perhaps stealth would serve us better, you interject. I might turn invisible, creep into their midst, and cut the unicorn free. My friend, surely your powers are best spent spewing forth gouts of deadly fire, not sneaking about like a rat. Fire and steel, simple and effective, says Reginald. What do you do? 1. Use fire and steel. Requires 4 mana. 2. Turn invisible. Requires 4 mana. 3. Use Sibba as bait. Very well.
We're gonna do that.
We shall help you
Use
get your
Sibba's
vengeance, you tell Sibba. If you have any wish to live, do not fight them. Simply lure them into the forest and allow Reginald and myself to do the bloody work. You and Reginald take up ambush positions on each side of an animal trail. When you are ready, Sibba walks off toward the evil priest hill. Soon you hear shouting, and then Sibba sprints past your hiding place. You see 3 Nerulean priests chasing her, and they appear to be running perfectly into your ambush position. Nice job, Sibba, you think. You had hoped to lure more than 3 since you counted more than 20 total. Killing this trio will do little to thin their numbers. Still, 3 dead villains is a good start, and you cannot allow these men to catch Sibba. What do you do? 1. Blast them with flames. Requires 4 mana. 2. Firebolt one of them. Requires 2 mana. 3. Use your dagger. You have 11 mana.
That's
You
fireball
signal for
stuff.
Reginald to wait so you can use your fan of flame spell without burning him. But he is too intent on the priests. There is no time to waste. You jump out several yards ahead of the onrushing priests and outstretch your fingers. The priests cannot break their momentum and tumble right into the flames, screaming as they fall and roll on the ground. Reginald leaps out from the bushes with his sword and finishes them off. Your morale goes up 2 points. Presently, Sibba trots out of the forest. She stops short of the fallen priests and beams down at them. Wonderful! You should set their heads upon spikes to decorate our camp. Well, it is not time to start playing with their body parts just yet, you say. They have lost only 3 men out of perhaps 24. I heard a woman scream. Was it the frightened little girl or Banton? A voice carries from the direction of the hill. Laughter trickles in through the trees. We had better do something quick before the suspicions of our remaining enemies are aroused, Reginald whispers. Oh, you caught me! Sibba claps her hands excitedly. Don those cloaks, raise the hoods, and drag me up the hill. They are not so stupid as to mistake us for their comrades in broad daylight, says Reginald. Well, we dare not attack so many without surprise, and we cannot simply sneak up on them now. Surely they are watching the wood, you say. Keep your backs to them as you drag me, Sibba says. Reginald shakes his head. This ambush worked well enough. Perhaps we could call more of them into the wood. Divide them further. Shout to them that we need help searching for the girl. I have enough power. I could become invisible and go up there alone to cut the unicorn free, you think. Obviously a risky move. A slightly less costly option in terms of mana would be to cast an illusion of goblins to serve as a distraction on one side, as Reginald charges up the hill on the other. Titus, Banton, come now, the ceremony must continue, one of the Nerulean priests shouts in the distance. What do you do? 1. Cast illusion. Requires 2 mana. 2. Turn invisible. Requires 4 mana. 3. Drag Sibba up the hill. 4. Lure Moore into ambush. You have 7 mana. Help us find her! Reginald shouts in a disguised voice that sounds like an angry moose. You and Reginald laugh into your sleeves. Your morale goes up a point. What fine sport this is, you whisper. Idiot! Comes an irate shout. Leave her then! The ceremony must proceed! You sigh. I do not think this ruse will work. We cannot expect them to leave their prize on the hill to beat the bushes for a girl. We must act quickly before they become suspicious. What do you do? 1. Cast Illusion. Requires 2 mana. 2.
Let's cast the
Reginald
illusion.
and Sibba make their way towards one edge of the wood, while you creep up to a spot with a clear view of where you shall cast your illusion. Meanwhile, the priests shout threats and insults to their perceived laggard companions. Some of them begin chanting, and it looks like they are going to resume their ceremony without the others. You have the goblins materialize out of the woods and charge up the hill, snapping and yipping. The morning sun glints off of their spear tips and sword blades. What a nice touch. A priest raises the alarm, and the others turn toward the threat. Goblins! In daylight! One of them shouts. Other priests begin casting spells, and soon the hiss of their death magic slices through the air into the onrushing horde. You try to have the goblins react realistically. Several fall as the rays rip through them. Nevertheless, you know you cannot keep this ruse up for long. Meanwhile, Reginald and Sibba are rushing up the hill from the other side. Humans and goblins! Magical trickery! Kill the humans! Shouts Lord Igraine from somewhere in their midst. Before the priests can turn their full attention to Reginald and Sibba, the two reach the priest's circle, hacking and stabbing. This causes a fair amount of confusion. However, they are already beginning to rally, and you know Reginald and Sibba will not be able to survive a barrage of death magic. You charge up the hill, shouting at the top of your lungs, while trying to maintain enough concentration on your illusion to keep it going. Granted, many of the priests now realize the hoax, but there are still a few fighting the phantoms. You need their attention divided if you have any hope of survival. You are nearly upon them before a dark, hissing ray strikes you in the abdomen. You crumple over. Oh! You lost 7 life. You have 5 life. As you try to rise, a wild-eyed priest charges at you with a short sword raised. Just before you think he will cut you down, a horn rips through his chest. The unicorn, you realize. Reginald or Sibba must have freed him in the confusion, and now you have a fierce mythical beast on your side. Your morale goes up 3 points.
Oh, yeah.
Good sir, the unicorn says to you as he withdraws his horn from the body of the priest. He then spins around and continues to kick and gore in a frenzy, shouting at the priests. You will pay for your iniquities! You are frozen in surprise. You have never seen a horse talk. His horsey lips do not move about like that of a human. Rather, his mouth simply opens and the words spill out. Of course, now is not the time to be impressed by talking horses. Now is the time for smiting evil. You pull yourself together and rush forth, stabbing frantically. You are a wizard, not a warrior, so there is no skill to your butchery. Fortunately, the priests seem equally incompetent in a close-quarters fight. Lord Igraine is a few meters away, a dagger in one hand, shouting orders. Kill the beast, shouts Lord Igraine from amidst the other priests. Spells are cast and the air fills with hissing, dark bolts of energy. You duck behind the stone as one sizzles above you. Peeking over the stone, you see several dark bolts strike the unicorn, and it whinnies in pain. Most of the remaining priests are so focused on the unicorn that they do not even notice Reginald joining the rear of their fray, swinging his sword with a grim smile on his face. Somehow they are oblivious to the butchery behind them. In the name of Nerul, die! The Lady Igraine shouts from her father's side as she sends forth a crackling ray into the side of the unicorn's head. The magnificent horse crashes to the ground. Behind! Behind! Someone shouts. Now the priests turn their attention to Reginald. He cannot stand against so many. You charge, dagger in hand, shouting like a madman. With you striking from one side and Reginald on the other, the remnants of the priests scatter. In a flurry of stabs, you cut down a final one before he reaches the woods. A shadow falls across your path, and you whirl about. It is Sibba. Her ragged dress is blotched with blood, and the dagger Reginald lent her drips with the gore of a fresh kill. She has a manic smile on her face. Revenge! Revenge for my captivity! She exclaims. She then runs off, presumably to hunt down more fleeing priests. You are considering joining her when you catch a glimpse of the long, beautiful hair of Lady Igraine disappearing into the forest below. You rush into the woods to investigate. Sitting propped against a fallen log only a few meters away is Lord Igraine. His glassy, lifeless eyes stare down at his entrails, spilling out upon his lap. There are symbols drawn in blood on large stones nearby. Kneeling beside him is the Lady Igraine. She is searching his pockets. Where is it? She shouts at her father and then slaps his face. Where is what? You ask as you take a step closer. She looks up at you with surprise, and then she smiles. Gods be praised, you saved me from my cursed father and his minions, she exclaims. Saved you from them? You are a priestess of death, are you not? You ask. You have fantasized about approaching Lady Igraine more times than you can count, but you never expected your first words would be these. No, no. I was but a slave to my father, she says, her face contorted in rage. She then smiles down at the mangled corpse next to her. Now he is gone, and I am free. But we must not dally here. Unrule, a monster from another world, stalks nearby. She points at one of the blood symbols scrawled on a nearby rock. The symbol is in Infernal. You look back to see Reginald chasing and hacking priests in the grassy field beyond. Quickly, gather your friends and follow me, Lady Igraine says urgently. What do you do? 1. Flee with her. 2. Demand her surrender. 3. Attack her. 4. Charm her. Requires 3 mana. You have 5 mana.
Let's flee.
She knows the threat we face, and she is so beautiful, you think. Reginald, you call, but he does not heed you. He is catching up to one of the priests and cleaving him down with his sword. Just then, you hear chanting behind you. You turn in time to see a dark ray shoot forth from Lady Igraine's finger. Die, fool! She shouts. You attempt to dodge, but the ray strikes you square in the forehead.
It killed me.
1,000 screams from 1,000 tortured faces
Why did I do
reach
that?
up for
That's
you
so
as you
dumb.
spiral into the darkness.
That
Dear
was so
listener,
dumb.
I know this choice has led to an unfortunate end, but consider this a favor. Far better that you fall in a game than fall for pretty lies from pretty lips in the real world. She might be beautiful, but she killed a unicorn with black magic. She was not a good catch.
Right.
Oh! You lost all your life. You have no life left.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you have died. I will return you to just before your last choice, so you can keep playing. What do you do? 1. Flee with her. 2. Demand her surrender. 3. Attack her. 4.
Attack her.
You witness this woman strike down a unicorn with black magic. It will take more than a beautiful smile to erase that foul deed, you think. Your morale goes up a point. Forget the others. Let us flee together. Show me the way to safety, you exclaim to the Lady Igraine.
What?
She flashes you a huge, beautiful smile and turns to lead you. She must have heard you rushing up behind her because she takes only a few steps before turning to face you, snarling. In the name of Nerul! You interrupt her spell with a stab just above her collarbone. She opens her mouth and spouts blood. Again and again you stab her until she lies on the ground, motionless. What a grisly and sad ending for the two of us, you think, looking down at Lady Igraine. Of course, there never had been two of you, but your dreams were real enough. Sighing, you wonder, she had been looking for something on her father. What was it? Just then, Reginald runs up to you, breathing hard. The priests mean to regroup. I hear them calling for one another in the wood. We best move on. He looks down at Lady Igraine. Is that? Yes, it is she, you reply. We may need a drink tonight, Reginald says. You nod, and then point to Sibba, who is now running around the grassy hill, crying and tripping as though in a panic. Aye, Reginald shakes his head. Only moments ago she was dashing about this field, wielding that dagger of mine like a bloodthirsty assassin. Now who is she? Is this the way of women? You shrug and jog out onto the grass. As you take Sibba by the wrist to try to calm her, Reginald announces that he will search just a few bodies before fleeing. No use in letting the vultures swallow our treasure, he says cheerfully. It is not safe to stay out in the open. We must not dally, you warn your friend, ignoring Sibba as she attempts to pull away from your grasp. Just then, the unicorn stands up. His legs are shaking and his eyes are bulging. You thought he was dead. No, not this, the creature bellows. He pauses for a moment and then screams triumphantly. This world is mine! Upon uttering this pronouncement, the unicorn gallops towards the granite slab and proceeds to bash his own head into it. You hear the horn snap with a crack. Blood spatters the white rock as the creature batters his skull over and over.
My God.
Gods!
I wish I would have
Why?
saved it.
No! Reginald stammers. Sibba commences screaming with renewed vigor. After a few seconds of this self-mutilation, the unicorn, with its jagged stub of a horn, turns and charges down the hill toward you. All three of you shout as you run with abandon. When you reach the woods, you look back to see the unicorn thrashing on the grass, screeching in an unearthly tone. Evil magic, Reginald says. You stare in horror and realize that this magic is beyond your understanding. Motioning for the others to follow you, you say, We have pressed good fortune long enough. Let us return to Ring City and the company of good people. The three of you set off toward Ring City, your beloved home. You and Reginald are grateful to have some company for the lengthy walk. The two of you have long since exhausted your trove of stories and can nearly predict what each other will say. Sibba, on the other hand, is full of stories of faraway places, creatures, and magic you have never heard of before. The daughter of a merchant must really get around. As it turns out, her family has recently moved to Ring City, and her brother Jordan tends the candle shop there. Nevertheless, she bombards you with questions about the city. She seems to want to know everything from who is who in the noble families down to the local gossip. The time passes quickly. By nightfall, the tall gates of the city rise above you. The guards, typically a suspicious lot, usher the three of you in without hesitation. They have known you and Reginald for years. Reginald was once even a member of the guard. Once inside, you immediately head to your loft. There, you rest and apply healing ointments to your wounds. You hide the majority of your loot under your floorboards. By the following evening, you are refreshed and feel stronger and more powerful than ever. You toss a handful of gold coins into your money pouch and meet up with Sibba and Reginald at the Leering Virgin Inn for some much-deserved celebration. The three of you feast and drink and tell stories, exaggerated, of course, to the inn regulars and otherwise thoroughly enjoy yourselves. There is no justice. There is no law, there is only power. You quote from the first page of the book bound in the human skin that you lifted from the sacrificial altar in Inverness Castle. Sounds just like what a zombie-raising, no-good Gorgon's ass would write, Reginald says with slurred speech. The three of you are alone at a table in a corner of the inn, as all of the other patrons have grown bored of your boasting and tall tales and have gone to bed. You page through the book. Ha! What is this? You exclaim. This speaks of Baroness Irulin lying with Sir Roger of Chesterford. Evil gossip, no more, Sibba says, and then takes a swig of wine. Well, the account seems rather detailed. You read further, and, oh, Guildmaster Franz Pacalis has been skimming gold from the mint, melting the coins down and recasting them with more copper. Aha! I thought the coins from the money changer were light. Reginald begins rummaging in his pockets. What is that, a book of dirty secrets? Sibba asks, pointing at the book accusingly. I rather think it is. Why, this silly little book might be worth more than the rest of our loot put together, you say. And you think that the Lady Igraine might have been looking for that book, says Reginald. He casts his eyes down to the table. Oh, I'm sorry, I did not mean to bring her to mind. You put up your hands to reassure your friend. It is well that you learn not to judge a woman by her face, you say, doing your best to give a convincing shrug. I had heard House Igraine had fallen on hard times. Desperation leads to an evil path, does it not? Reginald nods vigorously, sloshing his drink. The glassy-eyed expression on your friends' faces is the last thing you see before you black out. When you regain awareness, you are standing over a bed shouting, No, Reginald, you cannot die, please! You are pushing down on Reginald's neck, attempting to stem the flow of blood. It is no use. He is deathly still on the blood-soaked bed, and there is no pulse. Gods, no! You shout and run out of the room. You are now in what you recognize as the hallway of the Leering Virgin Inn. You shout for help and look back at him helplessly. From here you can see bloody finger painting on the wall around Reginald, runes in Infernal that appear to be some sort of spell used to harvest power from a soul. There are footsteps from behind, and you turn to see a city guard and an old man approaching. Seize that one! The old man croaks as he points at you. He is the murderer! To be continued. You made it to the end. Well played. Your final score is
630.
This earns you the rank of Survivor with nice teeth. This is an okay rank. You could do better.
Okay. So I guess that's the end. It says I only died once. And it has the option to try Wizard's Choice 2. So I'll see what I can do about that. Let me see how many. So yeah, it's a few minutes over what I normally do. And it says my title is Loaded with Coin, Slayer of Evil, Wealthy and Cunning Adventurer. Adventurer, Survivor with Nice Teeth, Vetter of the Trousers, or Wetter of the Trousers. I don't really like that title, to be honest. I don't really like it. So at the end of everything, the breakdown. So I had 16, morale score 16, multiplayer times 30, total 480. Gold 150 times 1, 150. And the total was 630. So that's it, guys. I will probably go back through and play some of these. Let me know if you want to see different endings. I know there's quite a few choices to make, so it's gonna be a little bit difficult to make all of the right choices, but I'll try my best if you guys want to see that. So let me know. And I guess this is it. Wow, I can't believe after all of that Reginald died. Oh my gosh. Man, that's really sucks because apparently somebody in Ring City was a Nerulean priest, so we'll figure that out in the next one. Wow, poor Reginald. R.I.P. I'm sorry. Siba, I hope you're okay. Wow. But I'll talk to you guys in the near future. Bye. Wow.